Greetings. Probably one of the greatest civilizations to have existed in the ancient world was that of the civilizations, and it's not just one, but a series of civilizations that existed between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. In a course on world history that I once took, this was referred to as the Fertile Crescent, and it would give rise to several civilizations that have passed down knowledge to us even to this present day. We still use some of what they discovered or invented. Anyway, one of the things that they first figured out before anybody else, it appears, on the planet is how to say, I don't want to use too many symbols, but I need to convey a lot of information. So, what we call the Babylonians, it was most probably the Syrians that first did this. They said, I'm going to have a very small set of symbols. I'm going to have that symbol, then I'm going to have this symbol, and then I'm going to have that symbol. Now, the reason these symbols are made the way they are is because they would be a lot like you are today. You're constantly tapping on something in your hand, your smartphone. Now, for them, they would have something in their hand, a little piece of wood. And the end of the piece of wood, if I stuck it straight into this clay tablet, would leave this type of mark. And if I take this mark and I make it twice, and I overlap it just a little bit, I get this mark. And then if I take and flip it over in my hand and I jab it in just the right angle, I get a little bitty mark instead of a long mark. So what they had was basically a way of taking wet clay and a stick, and they could jab it into the wet clay, making symbols. And for them, this would be the earliest form of writing. And we still talk about it today in Western civilization or even world history classes as cuneiform, the oldest form of writing. Now, the reason we come up with this being the oldest form of writing is these clay tablets would be cooked, making them semi-permanent, and in the climate between the rivers, these tablets have been able to survive for thousands of years. And so, if you were to write on something like our normal paper, is the idea you think this book going to be around in 5,000 years? Well, only if I can keep it in a library, and only if I keep the air conditioner going. But if I were to set this book outside in my backyard, and we were to wait 5,000 years and come back and nobody moved the book, I'm pretty certain the book would no longer exist. Rot would deteriorate the book. The material it's made out of is not a permanent material. It's not like the Egyptians chiseling things into stone. It's not like the Babylonians jabbing on clay tablets and then burning them and drying them out so that this is a permanent record. So, the two of the great civilizations that we study, we really get their knowledge because of the permanence of what they wrote and how they wrote. The only reason the Greeks came down to us is the Greek civilization is going to get a boost from the same time, the later time period. These two civilizations, the Babylonians and the Egyptians, predate the Greeks. The Greeks come along and the Romans will then take over the Greeks and basically keep the knowledge going. Good, smart Romans actually spoke and wrote good Greek, not Latin. So as this goes on, we're going to have some very interesting ways this knowledge comes down. Greek and Latin come to us because they survived through the Roman Empire. With the Egyptians and the Babylonians, permanence of the material. But let's look at now the Babylonians. If they wanted to represent 2, 1, 2, they jabbed the clay tablet twice, put the marks very close together. If they wanted to represent 10, well, that would be what I refer to as the boomerang looking symbol, would represent 10. So 12 would be a boomerang followed by 2 ones, 10 and 2. So it's an additive system. But The Babylonians put a twist on this. Let's jump up for a minute and go all the way to 58. And I'm going to quit making this symbol anyway, so stylized, and I'm simply going to draw two lines making a sideways arc. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 58. No problem, we understand this. 59, I'm simply going to add another 1. So I get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we're good to go. We know how to write this. Now at this point, even if you're sticking wet clay with a stick and bashing these little symbols into it, this isn't going to be the most fun you've had all day. So now you get to 60. Now I've got to make 6 of these things. Well, no. You would do this. Now that should leave you with a thought. How in the world can that represent 60 when this represents 1? They're the same symbol. Don't let the color fool you. And furthermore, 61 looks like this. Now notice it doesn't look like 2. It's 61. What does that mean about this symbol right here and not about this symbol over here? Well, this is the invention that the Syrians or the Babylonians were to give to us. It's called a place value system, meaning that this is actually what we think of as 2 digits. Meaning that in order to understand what's taking place, I have to think about where something's written because its location adds extra meaning. If I'm written far enough to the left, I know this symbol picks up more meaning. It picks up this concept of 60, whereas things in the first position have a meaning of 1. Now, with that being done, we know that the Babylonian civilization is giving us a place value system, so I can begin writing larger numbers like this one. And I would put them very close together because I know something. And when I transition from a symbol meaning 1 to a symbol meaning 10, it means there must be a break in the digits. So this is one collection of 60 and 23 collections of 1. So in other words, 83. There it is, 2 digits. One group of 60, 23 added to it, 83 total. And they have as many place values as you want. So where we, in our system, which is called base 10, we have 1s, 10s, 100s, and 1000s, and I'm going to stop there. 4 places is enough. And we get this by saying 10 to the 0 power, 10 to the first, 10 to the second, and 10 to the third power. And that's how we build our place value system. Well, the Babylonians do the same thing. They have 60 to the 0, 60 to the first, 60 to the second, and 60 to the third. Now, the one thing the Babylonians did not invent was a symbol for 0. So think about something. How would I represent, let's say, one of these and 3,600? So 3,601. How do I represent that? Well, I need one of these, and I need one of these, but how do I know this is 3,601 and not 61? Or for that matter, this number out here, 6 cubed, let's see, that would be 216, I believe. 216 thousands place. How do I know this isn't 216,001? Well, they have this symbol, and they would use it twice. Boom, boom. And what that symbol would mean is not zero. It simply means there's a space here, or a place value, that is not occupied by a symbol. Reader beware. It is not a zero. The concept of zero is not yet invented when the Babylonians were running their number system. And this number system, by the way, is still with us today. Now, you may say you don't count in this Babylonian system, but I bet you do. Every time you sit in a classroom, if the class starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, I know you look at your wristwatch and you begin thinking to yourself, can't wait for 10:50 to get here. Well, how many minutes does it take to make an hour? It takes 60 of them. So, if you think about seconds to minutes and beyond, it's based upon these ideas of multiples of 60. So, the Babylonian numeration of base 60 hangs around with our concept of time. Seconds to minutes, minutes to an hour. Now, the hours didn't take 60 because this Earth doesn't spin so slowly. It only takes 24 hours to go around, not 60. But this system of keeping track in groups of 60s is convenient. As a matter of fact, very early trigonometry was all done in these ideas of minutes and seconds based upon fraction parts of some unit in base 60. The Greeks would do a lot with that. I hope this helps.